To me, Sahaja, Samadhi, and transmission are the same thing. One of the pristine moments of realization in spiritual life is the dawning of Sahaja Samadhi, when the body begins to emit a current that is born of being both consciousness and matter. They've somehow come together. Finally, they've come together. And so there's this welling up of intensity that comes out of this naturally abiding state, which is non-effortful. Does that make sense? First, I experienced a unity consciousness of the self being present both on the inside and the outside. I looked up at these mountains here, and I saw myself everywhere in those mountains. It was wild. It sounds trite to say it, because everyone is into unity these days, but this was really all about consciousness. And then soon after that, that settled down, and then what was left was a very subjective sense of emanating this transparent bliss without lapse, without any pause. And there was a great movement of reality in that perception. It's strange to describe. We're so far beyond language when we talk about these things. We're way beyond conventional human understanding, which is what 98.9% of people live in our world. You need to examine yourself to get into these higher states, because they're all about self. Most people are glued to objective reality. They're caught in the field of subject-object play, and they can't wrestle free of that boundary, of that bondage of being drawn into relationship. So as soon as you create some space where you can observe yourself and your inner workings, until you get there, you won't be able to graduate into these higher levels of perception. And these higher levels of perception don't really do you any good. They just give you ultimate self-knowledge. Knowledge about the nature of yourself and about the nature of reality, external reality, the world. So Sahaja Samadhi is really an exquisite condition, which manifests a kind of radiance that is neither internal nor external. There's a great sense of ease and joy that comes out of this liberated state. So it's like the bliss has finally been freed up to have its own presentation. It's not even that you can describe it anymore, or even describe it and give it to somebody, to offer it to somebody, either linguistically or emotionally or mentally or spiritually. You can't even give it. You can't offer it. It's beyond that. It's something to be recognized in a very precious moment.
So how's that different than like having the Shakti?
Yeah, I would say the Shakti is one aspect of that, but does not define it completely. And by Shakti, we just mean that force, that invisible force that we feel that can guide us in meditation.
So that's not bubbly?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say it's just Shakti. I could, but it seems more than that. If there is such a thing as more than that. If there is such a thing.
But you described, having the consciousness that has no inside or outside. And of course, that is fascinating to me.
Yes, it is. It's utter fascination. So what else did we say? Sahaja Samadhi was incessant bliss, but not a feeling of bliss, but it's bliss itself.
Is there a sense of wonder?
That's too mental. Yeah, it's wondrous. It's beyond wondrousness.
There's a sense of
Mystery.
right, mystery or something.
Confounded in mystery forever.
Yeah.
It's being the divine. not even contacting it. But it doesn't mean that you're exclusively it. It just means that there has been such a massive opening in a particular individual's consciousness that starts spilling through without obstruction.
Right.
How that happens, my God, I don't know. This is way beyond Advaita. Advaita to me is just some very small area of realization, which has to do with the impersonal, and that everything in the individual becomes reduced into that impersonality. That impersonality begins to overshadow everything in that individual's life, and they speak from that level of universal consciousness or impersonal realization. It's impersonal, not personal. This is highly personal. What I mean by that is that the whole body-mind has been resuscitated in universal consciousness and therefore can be enjoyed as an instrument of universal consciousness to awaken others through feeling, through relativity, not through reminding you about the nature of the impersonal. Do you see the difference? But you see, for all of this to stick permanently and forever, there's just a magical moment when it all comes together, and which is neither the byproduct of your efforts, it's not even the byproduct of grace, it's just a fusion that happens in a single moment, and then everything surrenders into that eternally. Now, when I use the word surrender, don't get drawn into some kind of pseudo-religious understanding of what I think may happen when you hear that. Casually, you may hear that.